participant. Oh, hello. So are we all in here for Ignite session 7?
Oh, am I muted?
Not anymore.
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning, how are you?
Okay.
Good.
I'll
So
show
we
you
all
my
in here
face for a
for
second.
session 7, Ignite?
Yep.
No, you're fine.
Well, that's me. And now I'm going back to my regular picture.
There you go.
Oh, somebody's on their iPhone, huh?
Give a few more minutes here.
It's 11 o'clock. Okay.
Yep. How's everybody holding up with everything going on this year, or this past year, I should say?
It's insane, and I'm depressed.
Oh yeah, cool, awesome.
And I think McConnell's a traitor.
Hey guys, I mean, just real quick. Essentially, the way I go about doing things is it's really interactive. I mean, it's more of a mastermind than anything. I've always found that, when I was a team leader and a PC coach, it's just better for that kind of mastermind style than just me reading off slides and things like that. So really just kind of looking for some open-ended discussion, and we'll dive right into it. Okay, sound good? Awesome. Once again, great. There we go. So can I get a general census, like of the room? How many is the majority of everybody in here? What, a year into the business, or what's that look like?
I got my license first week of December.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
I got my license the first week of December.
Okay,
can you hear me?
Cool.
Put my first offer in yesterday. Unfortunately, we got outbid, but we're
gonna
still
have
searching.
a lot of those. Yep.
Yep.
I mean, but that's awesome. December, and you already wrote an offer. That's awesome. Good for you.
Thank you.
Everybody else kind of about a year on average in the business?
5.
Yay. 5?
I'm a year.
Yeah, I'm 5.
Oh, wow, cool. Good for you.
I wish it were better.
I got my license in November.
November? Okay.
Congratulations.
Awesome.
October of 2019.
Okay. So right before the pandemic and everything.
Yep.
Okay. So real quick before we get into everything, guys, I'm really looking for what you guys are really looking to get out of this. I mean, again, this is more of a mastermind session. We'll dive into obviously finding buyers and cultivating them, so on and so forth, and we'll go through a lot of this packet. I don't have the slides pulled up real quick. Hold on. But what are we kind of looking for as far as some questions you guys might have? Okay.
I would say just some options on where to find buyers.
Okay. Options where to find buyers.
Mine are pretty much just how to turn these people that are calling about rentals into buyers.
That's a good one.
Into buyers. Okay. Is that pretty much it? 2?
I'm here to suck up everything you got to give me.
I like that answer. That's what we're looking for. Let me
I'm
get
sure
in
I'll have
here.
some questions pop up along the way.
Perfect. Well, let me just get this PowerPoint pulled up and shared real quick. So guys, a little bit about me. I mean, I'll dive right into it while this is all loading on my end. So I actually got my license in 2014. I started up in Northeast Ohio, and I, like probably most of you guys, just jumped headfirst into real estate. Quit my full-time corporate job with Sherwin-Williams. At the time, I was in the Akron territory, and just dove headfirst into real estate, and that was in 14. I felt like I was pretty successful as a new agent, and then kind of one of those bumps in the road, not necessarily bumps in the road, but kind of journey alterations. I mean, I decided to move down here to Columbus to be with my wife. So picked up, left, started a new business down here, moved September of 2015. Really got going in 16. So 16, I did about 3 million as a new agent, new market in Columbus. 17, I grew about 1 million, so just about 4 million. Out of those transactions, year one down here in Columbus, I did about 13 or 14. Pretty much all of those were buyers. And then 17, pretty much a little bit similar, a lot more buyers than sellers. And then I became the team leader over at Keller Williams Excel because my wife and I were expecting twins at the time. And then got out of that, went into the PC role over at the Westerville branch, and now I'm back into sharing the lines with you guys as far as finding some business and turning those into sales. So that's kind of the background of my story, but really it's been built on, buyers. I mean, that's kind of my wheelhouse. So let's pull this up.
I'm sorry, what is your name?
My name's Ben Pflum. I apologize. I probably should have started there, huh? And I am just a solo agent out of the Keller Williams Excel branch in Westerville. Why will not? My slide will not start for some reason. All right, so we're just gonna share this, and then we'll take it from here. Can everybody see my screen all right?
Yes, it's looking good.
What's that? I'm sorry.
I said it's looking good.
Okay, perfect. I am not the most tech savvy individual, just to give you guys a heads up. So, but we'll get through this. All right, so today we're going to focus, I mean, the majority of all of this. Can anybody help me get rid of this? How does this start? I want to get out of this.
Go
Anyway,
up to the top where it says slideshow.
where
in
are
the
you at?
middle-ish. Next to
There
animation
we
says
go.
slideshow. And from beginning or from current
From
slide.
beginning, there we go. There we go. All right, better? All right, so today we're gonna focus a lot on one thing, but really we're gonna be focusing on growing the business. This is what successful agents do every day. I don't know if your day kind of looks like this, but too often agents get caught up on running their business versus growing their business. And growing their business is something they do every single day. I mean, there really isn't a big secret in real estate. The majority of mega agents across the United States and across the world really focus on one key thing within growing their business day in and day out, and that's lead generation. So is it pretty I mean, everybody in here, do they pretty much focus on lead generation daily? Are we doing that daily? What's that look like on everybody's schedule? Are we time blocking?
I'm time blocking as much as possible.
As much as possible. Do you guys have set schedules on lead generation for buyers and sellers?
I do.
Okay. So this is
I
pretty much where
don't.
go ahead.
I was just going to say, I haven't got to that point yet. I usually just contact people back when they contact me.
Okay.
And if I do set aside a time, I notice it's not that much. It's usually like a Saturday morning for like an hour.
Okay. When you're setting time, when you're answering calls, that's the biggest thing with you know, starting off. That's one thing that'll get in the way. When you're just calling people back, that's more being reactive than proactive when it comes to lead generation. I would say that's more lead follow-up than lead generation. Lead generation is that activity that we're doing every single day to reach out to new people, right? So that's where we're really going to focus. A couple things as far as lead generation. It's not just picking up the phone, right? I mean, it can be different activities. So a couple activities that can definitely help you guys would be, open houses. I mean, that's a form of lead generation, right? Obviously, picking up the phone and calling your sphere. That's another form of lead generation. Internet leads. Does anybody dive into internet leads here or no?
No.
Not yet.
No.
I have some
Okay.
internet leads coming from my coach.
From your coach, from Josh, I'm assuming.
Yes.
I also focus on those. I'm on a team. So from that
Perfect.
aspect, that's where that comes from.
Yeah, so thank you for bringing that up. So when you're lead generating, if you're on a team, to your point, the majority of your lead generation is going to come from internet leads, dialing into those, so on and so forth, right? And then you're going to dive into obviously prospecting your sphere, open houses, so on and so forth. As a solo agent, you really don't start with the internet leads, right? You start with the prospecting of your sphere. And then you start into open houses and things of that nature, right? So thank you for bringing that up, because also that plays into kind of where you guys work best, right? If you're better on the phone or you're better in person. And that kind of goes back to your whole disc personality. If you're a D, a high driver, you're go, you're influencer on the I's, you're very interpersonal. SC are more of those compliant and social individuals. So thank you for bringing that up. But we're going to dive into back here. Let me get back. How do I get back here? All right. So whatever, start from the beginning. We'll do this. So finding buyers. So here's kind of what NAR tells us. This is the updated information from 2019 as far as finding buyers. 89% of buyers purchase their home through a real estate agent, which is awesome for you guys, right? I think that is going to obviously get harder and harder with the Zillows of the world trying to take over our industry. But nevertheless, you guys are in a perfect position, right? 41% of their buyers found their agent through a referral source. So we've talked a little bit about that. 75% of buyers interviewed only one real estate agent during their home search, and 51% of their buyers visited an open house. Can anybody tell me real quick, are you guys doing open houses? Have you had success with open houses, especially during the pandemic?
I'm having difficulty finding open houses. I have it up on the site
Sure.
and asking for them, but houses are selling so quickly that most agents, don't have a need for an open house.
Sure. Is everybody
I
else
did
kind of
one-
feeling that same? Go ahead.
I did one open house during the pandemic. It was back in November, and most of the people that came were already working with the agent.
Did they just did they tell you that, or did they sign in and list an agent, or what did that look like?
So 2 people came with their agents, and then one person came by himself, but he said he did have an agent, and he had his agent submit an offer later on that evening. And then there was one person, like an investor, who was working on the house down the street. He just walked over, and he did ask me to be his agent to submit an offer on that house.
Right. Anybody else? That's awesome. I mean, that it is difficult right now with open houses and the way they're selling and things of that nature. So I'm with you, and we can go through a few things there. Anybody else as far as open houses during the pandemic?
I've done about 4 of them. Basically for a realtor friend of mine, anytime she'd get a house, she would say she knew I was new, so she would just let me do the open houses. I did get one client from open house. We able to put an offer in on the house. We didn't get it, but yeah, majority of the clients who came in, they had a agent with them, or they already had an agent and signed his name on the sign-in sheet. But yeah, this market is tough.
Yeah, I mean, I built my business on open houses, I'll be honest, because moving down to a different area, I mean, I didn't know a whole lot of people in Columbus, so I needed to get in front of as many people as possible. So me personally, that's where I started. Now, if a lot of you guys have been in this area for a while, obviously you want to start with your sphere, second to none, right? I mean, that is where you need to leverage all your contacts and start getting those referrals, right? But when I started, it was during the open house, or doing the open houses. I understand listings are pretty scarce right now. Getting the open house is it's free office space, right? It's free marketing. The activities going into the open house are huge, right? So that's where I captured the majority of my business. I also did quite a few open houses during the pandemic, and that is leading to quite a bit of clients for me moving into 2021. I'm sorry, was somebody about to say something? Nope. Speak now, forever hold your peace. So the activities going into an open house, obviously we're running Facebook ads, right? I mean, everybody's pretty familiar with command and things like that. Yes. Lively group.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that for me?
Is that everybody pretty familiar with running ads through command?
No.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes. No. Okay.
I know that
No.
you can. I haven't done it and don't know how.
Okay. So that's one thing you definitely want to get familiar with, right? Because that's an easy way to prospect for buyers, to put into your cultivating stage, to qualify them, to turn them into buyers, right? So Facebook ads with through command are huge. Rachel does them all the time. There's plenty of videos out there to watch. So let me just kind of pull up some ads real quick. So for the open houses, it's the activities leading up to the open houses, like I said, right? So typically what you're going to do is you're definitely going to want to run an ad through command. I mean, your return on ads through command to capture information, and that's really all we're looking to do. We want a name, a number, an email address. That's really it, because you need to start cultivating them into turning them into future business, right? So open houses are great because, again, there's no inventory out there, right? So everybody is looking and you're getting all the information. So I don't know why it went to opportunities. So typically what we're doing is, prior to an open house, we're starting an ad, right? Starting an ad on a Wednesday or a Thursday, sometimes even on a Monday. It just depends kind of what you want to do leading up to that open house. Another great way to get contact information is, back in the day, we used to call it our 10-10-10s. I don't know what people call it now, and it's a little bit different now with the pandemic. So my process has changed, where I'll pretty much knock on 10 of the neighbors on each side and across the street, and just invite them to the open house. I'll typically do that the day before, just to, again, get as many people through the doors, because all I really want is contact information, right? I want a name, I want a number, I want an email address. I want to put them in a system to where I can drip on them. So that's really where we start to try and get that business to cultivate. So we're running different ads through command. So if you guys follow along here, it's through campaigns. And this is how you start a Facebook ad. And I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this, just because, this is something that your market center will really dive into. You create a campaign, a social ad, it's a paid ad, and you want to attract buyers, advertise a listing. I will typically, every time I'll advertise a listing, because essentially all you're doing is you're getting out a lead page to get contact information. Type in the name, which was going to be the address, run a Facebook ad, and then it'll prompt you just to kind of go through. I really don't want to do this, but I will. 229 or an apple, just or an apple, advertise Facebook, set a campaign.
While you're doing that, so I just moved over from a different broker, so I'm literally just learning command.
You're just learning command?
Yeah, getting my contacts in and trying to figure out my app and how to send it to people so they can register. So I'm going to watch this, but I haven't even got through the first steps yet.
Yeah, and that's why I didn't want to dive too much into this. You're really going to want to look into sitting down with either Rachel, reaching out, looking at different videos on how to do ads and things like that through command, because essentially all this is doing is it's helping you build that database to where you're cultivating those buyers and dripping them down into turning them into qualified leads, right? So I don't want to spend too much time on this, but for the open house process, you really want to start here, because, again, it gives you that name, phone number, email address, to where it just builds out that database bigger and bigger, right?
Excuse me, just while we're waiting, You had mentioned that with the open house, there was 10, 10, 10, and I only caught one of them. You said 10 neighbors. What were the other two?
So it's typically 10 neighbors on each side of the house, 10 to the right, 10 to the left, 10 across the street.
Okay.
I used to, back in the day, I would send out a postcard to everyone in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
However, that became too expensive, to where I really focused on getting in front of the individuals and inviting them. And my screen kind of died here on command. So let me just get back into this. It just got too expensive. So now really what I focus when I invited those neighbors is just give them something of value, as far as pretty much just like a little door hanger, knock on the door, put it on their door, and then step back. Hey, just wanted to invite you down to the open house I have. If you want to kind of swing by, typically I would set about 30 minutes aside prior to the open house and invite them during that time frame. So if your open house is from 1 to 3, hey, from noon or from 12:30 to 1, I'm having a little preview of the open house just for the neighbors. It's more of a community open house prior to the open house, just so you can kind of see, what things in your neighborhood are listed for and what could potentially they sell for, right? Because they want to know that information. So I would invite them to preview that. And one thing about the pandemic, I'll say, and this is probably bad of me to say, but for open houses, the pandemic has done something really good has come out of the pandemic when it comes to getting information, right? And that's the fact that when people walk through the door at an open house, a lot of agents would struggle to get a correct email address or a phone number or anything like that, or they would just write down their name and just walk on by you, right? So a lot of people would struggle to get that information. One thing with COVID is it is guaranteeing you to get contact information, and it really is. Client walks through or not a client, but a prospect walks through the door of an open house. Sign-in sheet is right there. I have a bunch of pens, hand sanitizer, disinfectant. I tell them to keep the pen. It leaves something with them, right? But really, I don't want people just grabbing and using the same pen over and over. I always fill out the first line of a sign-in sheet. I'll use one of my friends, Brian Yasho, 614-229-56, whatever. I'll make it all up because they're more apt to follow along with what somebody did prior to them, filling out their entire information as far as phone number, email address, and I'll even put a spot for client or for realtors information, their realtors information. So when people walk through the door during COVID, it's so much easier to get their contact information because the way I play it off is, and this is true as well, right? But hey, do you mind filling out your contact information? Heaven forbid somebody gets sick. I want to be able to reach out to you, whether it's phone or email, and let you know that somebody walked through the open house that was sick, right? Boom, you automatically are going to capture every single person's contact information, right? It's bad of me to say that, but that's the world we're living in, right? And you just got all their information, right? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Would you agree that that's pretty easy to do?
Yeah.
The biggest struggle when doing an open house right now is the fact that the traffic is insane, right? So we don't have as much time to talk to those individuals that we would like to, right? So a lot of people's mistakes in doing open houses right now is they go straight from finding the buyer of an open house and they go directly to qualifying the buyer, because there's not as much interaction in that open house time frame that you would like to start building that relationship, right? So we really just are focusing on getting the contact information because we can cultivate them after the open house, right? Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So cultivating, let me go back here. So does everybody have like these little handouts? Do you have all these? Let me stop sharing. Like the Ignite handouts for, it's a 7-page handout. Do you guys all have that?
I do.
I don't.
I don't, mine's not printed, but I have the link for it.
Okay. It should look like this. Has everybody seen this before, or is this kind of new to them?
I've seen it before.
Okay. This kind of leads into touch programs, right? Smart plans, smart drips. Is everybody kind of familiar with a 33 touch, which is now a 36 touch, 12 by 12, 8 by 8s?
Nope.
Is everybody familiar with that? What's that? Hello?
Yes.
Okay. So prospecting and marketing, once we get get these contacts, right? Everybody, in my opinion, should be on some sort of touch program. A 36 touch, in my opinion, everybody should be on that. And I'm probably beating a dead horse here because everybody talks about touch campaigns and how many touches you need to have, so on and so forth. Can you guys give me an idea of a couple different touch ideas as far as emails and things of that nature?
Well, I set up my internet referrals on a touch campaign, but in the beginning, I mean, I reach out to them first and try to call them or leave them a message and also send them an email. And then I set them up on an early buyers smart campaign. So it's a variety of information. I think it's only 12 emails. So then I go back and then depending on what interaction I have with them, I would put them on a different smart plan.
Okay, that's awesome. Anybody else?
Well, I'm still waiting on my business cards, so they're going to go out. But my first step was to write handwritten notes to my sphere, and some of those people I had to call to get their addresses and stuff. So I feel like that initial call was good, and then I'm writing notes and including my business cards to tell them they mean something to me and hope that they'll recommend me if they hear of anyone looking for someone to sell or
What's your
buy a
follow-up
house
to
from.
that?
Well, they haven't gone out yet, and I don't know what my next step is. I think that at that point I will put them on some kind of automated email system. But I'm still thinking about kind of taking it one step at a time.
There you go. I personally feel like if you're doing handwritten notes to your sphere, I personally think you need to follow up with them via phone. Give them a quick call, and that can be a week or two later, probably 2, just because of mail time, and just reach out to them. Hey, I'm just following up, making sure you got my letter I wrote you. I'm really looking to go into 2021 and grow my business as much as possible. And, I thought of you because you're one of my close friends or relatives or whatever. And I was hoping that I could rely on you to help me grow my business. Right? It's a simple phone call. And then, hey, can you think of anybody off the top of your head that might be looking to buy or sell within the next year? I mean, if they're truly in your sphere, that's an easy follow-up. And then from there, then you can put them on, a smart drip campaign to keep your name in front of mind, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
So back in the day before we had Command, a couple different ideas for drips, right? Because 36 sounds like a lot. It really does. But once you break it down and simplify it, it's really not that hard to put people on a touch program. And right now I'm talking more about the Mets because we talked about 89% of everybody gets a referral from their Mets or refers somebody from that sphere. So that's kind of where I'm focusing in this funnel because that's going to be your biggest source right now outside of doing things like open houses, right? So a couple different things. Obviously, you have a whole bunch of smart plans in Command, right? You have tons of them. Before that, you had E-Edge. Does anybody else run like a Boomtown or a Sync or anything like that? I'm sure some of the people with teams are on different CRMs like that.
Yes.
Boomtown, Sync, what do you got?
Sync. And
Sync?
a few
Okay.
others. Mm-hmm.
Few others. Okay.
Yeah.
As a new agent, obviously, or some of you guys that are new agents, and again, we're just kind of brainstorming here. One of the ideas for, and this is prior to Command and the neighborhoods, smart drips that you had set up, MLS. The MLS is a CRM program. Do people really realize that or no?
Yes.
So when you have, and this goes into more of a past client, right? Let's say you guys sold a buyer something. Instantly, I would set them up on a neighborhood search of where they bought. And I would send it to them once a month. It's the same exact thing that Command does with your neighborhood drips, right? Your neighborhood update. So prior to Command, that's what I was doing. As soon as they bought something, they're on a monthly drip campaign, if you will, through the MLS. They're getting updates of things that went active in their neighborhood that they just bought or went into contract where they bought and just sold. So once a month, they would get that through MLS. And it's an easy way to stay up to date with your client and just automate the whole process, right? You can get 12 touches through that alone. What are some other drips that you can do on clients that you're prospecting to turn into leads? Smart plans, we've talked about. Handwritten notes.
I've been sending text messages.
Text messages?
Of people that showed interest or people that I was working with, just send them a quick message.
Again, from there, I would challenge you what your follow-up is. You don't want to rely too heavily on being reactive, right? Because that's essentially what you would do by trying to reach out to them via text and then just starting, you want follow-up no matter whether they respond or not. Yes. So from there, you're sending out a text message, staying front of mind, and then what? Right? How about promotional events? Some of you guys on teams, are you doing promotional events?
We haven't recently, but that's a goal of ours in 2021.
Mm-hmm. Some of you, obviously newer agents, does the thought of doing a promotional event kind of scare you, and you're automatically thinking that it's going to cost money?
No.
No.
No. Okay.
I mean, I'm thinking
But-
I can work with a vendor to help cover the cost. I'm just don't have I'm new to Columbus, so I don't really have a sphere yet, to invite to an event.
Right. And it can be as simple as just something at a park. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be, real expensive and elaborate. But again, it's another way to touch these people that you're trying to convert. I invite everybody personally. And if I get too many responses, then that's when I'll start to set up another kind of event. And it doesn't have to be, it could be as simple as, hey, I'm running a promotion. I'm giving somebody $100 gift card. And that right there just gives you an idea of ways to reach out to people that you're trying to convert, right? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Is everybody still with me, or are they falling asleep?
Yep,
Yeah,
we're
I
here.
like the idea of a promotional thing. I guess I didn't understand like how you could tie it in. Like you give people $100 gift card if they get pre-approved or refer someone that
So
turns into a
I-
client or a
I-
closing.
Yeah, so like typically like the promotional events that I'll do is right now it's really around my sphere, but you can do it with everybody in your database if your database is small, right? So if you're a newer agent and let's say you're not from Columbus, or you don't have a big database, right? So you're just starting to build that database. You can start with those non-Mets individuals that really you don't know all too well, but you're doing some sort of event saying, hey, I'm holding a buyer seminar. It's a $100 gift card giveaway for you to show up to this event or whatever, right? Because that's another way to get in front of somebody, to turn them from just a lead or a contact and transferring them down into cultivating them to where they're ready to buy. So the majority of mine were just right now is from my sphere of people that I know. And it's really just, hey, I'm holding a little contest right now. I'm going to give away a $100 gift card to anybody that just reaches out to me. And then Josh Nungesser does the best job ever. What he's been able to do with his kind of promotional events are second to none, in my opinion, because he's getting people to like call him, reach out to him, right? And he's taking it a step further, saying, hey, if you know somebody that's looking to buy or sell and you give me their information, I'll give you 5 more entries, right? So he's getting his clients involved with growing his business, and that's what he does better than anybody, in my opinion. Is he's getting that interaction from his clients to grow his business. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. I like that idea because I'm going to work with some other agents in our office to do a home buyer seminar. So that's something we could do, is offer, a promotional item, the
Right.
gift cards. That's a good idea.
Right. And I had to turn that off. I was tired of just looking at that screen and not seeing everybody. But another thing you can do to cultivate and capture leads, this is prior to pandemic. I used to do bridal shows. Why not? What's two of the biggest, one of the biggest things you're going to decide outside of buying a house and having kids, right? It's getting married. So I used to do bridal shows, and I would go down to, I forget where it is now, and I'm still registered, but all the bridal shows are a little bit funky with the pandemic. I used to get so many contacts from that, show up with a couple gift cards, some information packets just on a little bit about me and what I do. And it's just conversation. Hey, congratulations on getting married, you know, like, hey, here's some information on potentially buying a house. Those, by doing a bridal show, and I would encourage, if you did something like that, to get a vendor. They will email you a copy of everybody that signed up for that bridal show. So you could walk away with 1,000 contacts if you really wanted to. And not many people thought about doing bridal shows. But all I'm looking to do is I want a name, a phone number, and an email address, because I'm gathering that data to build a database and turn those into buyers, right? It might not be for 2 years, but I have 1,000 contacts now that I can set up on a smart drip campaign to where maybe I capture 2 or 3 of them, right? Or maybe I capture 10 of them. It's all that follow-up that you guys are doing, but I got the information, and that's really what I was looking to do. I mean, what's some other ideas? Can anybody think of anything?
I used to go to the neighborhood commission meetings and rec centers.
Rec centers? Yep.
Yep. So the area commission and just kind of the meetings that go on around the neighborhood that I'm in, and actually other neighborhoods too. And then that way I can also find out what type of programs that they have for home buyers, or what they're giving away, or what incentives they have for that area.
Right. That's awesome. Anybody else?
I've been doing that too with the city council meetings, just to see
City council?
what developments are coming up. I live in New Albany, so it's, constantly changing. And I think it's good to be in the know, like, hey, someone's applied for a restaurant, or somebody's applied for, a bar license or whatever. So you kind of know what's coming up in the neighborhood.
You too, Dick. We'll see ya.
Right. Anybody have kids and are in PTA, things like that? Sports, anything like that?
Yeah, I belong to the PTO as well. And New Albany has a New Albany Women's Network, so I'm part of that as well.
Perfect.
Just doing whatever I can to get my face in the community. I go to all the PTO board meetings and all of that stuff. I think the more people see you, I'm just like with each other within Keller Williams, we've grown to have friendships with each other just on these Zoom calls.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. But one thing I would encourage you to do at things like that is always bring up real estate somehow, right? Too often we go into those meetings and it's a little fearful to bring up business, right? But naturally that gets brought up, especially in our line of work, real estate. Everybody wants to know what's going on with real estate. So by staying front of mind with those individuals, knowing that you're in real estate, right, is only going to benefit you to get them in some sort of touch campaign, right? That makes sense?
Mhm. Yes.
All right. So talked about our database, cultivating all those individuals. You're trying to connect with them to get them down into the cultivating to nurturing them to getting them qualified and turning them into an appointment, right? Everybody kind of familiar with this now as far as what the thought behind it is.
Yeah, I think it's been in every one of our Ignite meetings.
Has it? I mean, that should kind of be a big indicator for everybody. I mean, this really is the most important thing that you guys can do in your business is building that database. That's what every mega agent across the United States does. They focus on this database. Usually what happens as a new agent is they focus on the database and then they get a client, right? So then they get blinders and then they focus on that client. That's their priority. Versus every single day, this is where your day needs to start. It needs to start in your database versus getting sidetracked with emails and reactions and things like that, right? Since not everybody is overly familiar with Command, I'm not going to dive too much into the smart plans if you guys are okay with that, or if you want me to, I can. It's just everybody's in kind of a different state right now to where I would really encourage you getting with your market center and going through different aspects of Command. Is that okay with everybody?
Yes.
For those
I'm
of us
fine with
at
that.
Capital Partners, Rachel's doing a smart plan meeting at 10 o'clock.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, if I start diving into this, it's going to be contrary to what Rachel says, because Rachel is so much smarter than me at all this stuff. So, and plus I'm a Boomtown user as well. I use Command and I use Boomtown. If you guys as new agents ask me, should I invest in a Boomtown or a different CRM? I would say you're kind of out of your mind spending that kind of money on a CRM program when something's provided for you that is, in my opinion, better than anybody's out there, from the fact that it's free and it's very, very well built, right?
So I'm just curious, when you're using like two CRMs, how are you deciding what drip plans people go on? Or do you put them on two?
So I run so it's an excellent question. I'll just pull it up and show you. I don't really hide anything. So my Boomtown in particular, and I don't encourage other people's CRMs because this is just way too expensive. My contract's actually up in February, in which case I'm going to switch over completely to Command. And that's the honest to God's truth. This was the first year that I actually paid for a different CRM. And the whole reasoning behind it is because my CRM program prior to Command was an Excel spreadsheet. I literally used an Excel spreadsheet as my CRM. So I was not very systematic on how I was touching people. So Boomtown is really kind of my catch-all for just putting people on smart plans. So I don't get a very good return on Boomtown, and really because I've focused on Open House and Sphere, and Boomtown to me is more just that leads center, similar to like a Sync or a Zillow or whatever other people are using. They don't need an urgent appointment, but essentially I would use this and I would just put them on a watch lead, which is a 9 to 12, just because I'm hoping to capture them eventually. But everybody, for the most part, I really focus on command as my sphere. So people from open houses, people from that I've worked with in the past, so past clients, this is my go-to of these are my people. These 225 people. It doesn't have to be big. Some people could see this 225 people and be like, he only has 225 people that he knows. I have a lot more. I haven't been as systematic as I would like to be, but these 225 people, I can tell you, I know every single one of them. I know where they're at, what they're doing, so on and so forth. The Boomtown has just been more of that leads. I'm just trying to get internet leads, but these people right here, I'm putting them on a smart plan of mainly just a newsletter, neighborhood watch plans. I'm using the smart plans for birthdays, and other events like that, when their anniversary is, things like that. Because I want to send out something for their anniversary. I want to send out something for Easter, everything. Every little thing I can reach out to them. I want to make sure that these 225 people get. The people in Boomtown, it's bad of me to say, but I don't really care a whole lot about those people because that's just my cultivating. I'm putting them on just generic stuff, and then I'm reaching out to them, maybe once a month or every quarter or something like that, to try and put them in command to where those people in command are my go-to people.
Okay.
So
Thank
the answer is it just depends. Does that answer that question?
Yes.
Or no?
Yeah. So I'm doing that in command, putting them on a cultivate. So that I'm
Yeah.
planning on just sticking with that, quite frankly.
Yeah. So then we're into qualifying the buyer lead. Does everybody know what we're talking about when we're talking about qualifying leads? The different phases that leads are in can really be summed into 3 different categories. And I actually like that they put this slide up because we hear it all the time. When you're qualifying the lead, they obviously either need to be able, ready, and willing. Those are your people that are pre-approved and ready to go, right? Or they're able and ready, but they're just not right. Typically, that's the people that either have some credit repair or they have a house to sell or things of that nature. Do we know how we can move them from B to A?
Sell their house.
Excellent answer. I love that. We've already talked about it. It's staying in touch with them. It's putting them on a touch campaign. If they're able and they're ready, these are the people I want to focus on the absolute most. This is the most important group, in my opinion. Obviously, the A's, they're ready, they're willing, they're able. Those are clients that you're already working with. These are the people that are at risk of going somewhere else. Can we agree on that?
Mm-hmm.
So I want to make sure that if they are able and they are ready, those are the people I want to get moved up. You see a lot of those people at open houses too. Almost everybody at an open house is in that B stage or A. Because when people first start off, they're just flying by the seat of their pants, getting out there to see what they can find in their budget. Buyer lead sheets. Do people ask probing questions? Do you guys have something like this?
Yes.
This actually exact one is in your toolkit. Do we use that? Does everybody use that?
I haven't. I haven't downloaded it yet.
Do you have a separate lead form or something that you use?
Well, I guess I have questions that I'm familiar with, but obviously it would be better if I had something, more tangible.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yes, I have one that I use every day, and it's very similar to the one that's
Very
you
similar.
find in Command.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people's mistake here is that they just focus on the name, the email address, the phone number, instead of going a step further, and trying to be more relatable, more personable, and find out information about them and their family. What's most important to them? Why is that important to them? I mean, they could be moving because they want to be in a different school system for their kids. Oh, that's great. How old are your kids? I always reference the fact that I have 2-year-old twins. And so from there, I take it from me just being a real estate agent to me being just another person that they can relate to. Oh, yeah, you have 2-year-old kids? Yeah, you have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, whatever. And then we start going down that road. But then once you open them up to that idea, then they're more apt to give you the information. Oh, yeah, this is my kid's name. Oh, yeah, when were they born? Getting that information. So when you follow up with them, maybe they've fallen through the cracks for a couple months, and then all of a sudden they get a birthday card for their kid, right? Hey, I just wanted to send Braxton a birthday card. Not sure if you remember, we met an open house, a few months ago. Thought we hit it off. Just wanted to reach out and wish your son a happy birthday. Right? That'll automatically boost you to top of the mind, 100%, without question. We're not going to role play. I know that probably breaks everybody's heart. If you're okay with that. Does everybody here sign a buyer's agreement once they've kind of trickled these buyers into getting them qualified and they're ready to go? Anybody? Nobody?
I don't have a ton of experience, but the 2 buyers consults that I've had them sign.
You've had them sign. Anybody else? And Nicole, you're part of a team, right?
Yes.
Is it your standard to have that signed with your team?
Yes. Has
What's-
it always happened? No, from what I understand. So,
Right.
But yes, it should be.
Anybody else?
I haven't. Most of my clients so far have been family or friends.
Okay. I used to be terrified of doing this, quite frankly. My personality is, everybody here familiar with the disc? Yes, no. We used to do it with Keller Williams. I don't know if we do it anymore. I'm a very high I, so getting this, and for those of you that aren't familiar, high is that influencer. It's that person that just likes to talk and be around people. That's me in a nutshell. So for me to ask for the business and get them to sign something was very difficult. However, I found out that it's actually very easy to get signed once you ask for it, and it's a simple conversation. Too many people are scared that it just ties you to them. Hey, if you have a bad experience, my number one priority is that you have a good experience. That's my number one goal here. So if you have a good experience, I've built my business on people referring me business. So I'm looking for you to have the best experience, second to none. And quite frankly, if you haven't, I haven't done my job. In signing this, if something goes wrong to where you feel like you're starting to have a bad experience, I have no problem ripping this up. This just is something that we do from a company standpoint that kind of requires us, especially during COVID, right? They want to know who I'm working with. So, I mean, you could even spin it that way, but it's so easy to spin that into just getting that agreement signed.
That's along the lines of what I've said also. And I feel like sometimes they can tell I'm just a little uncomfortable asking for it.
Sure.
So it's a little, I don't know, I guess I can play both ways, but
Yeah,
it's
you can
worked.
play it both
It's
ways,
worked.
but you have to do it over and over in order to get comfortable with it, or people are going to know that you're just bullshitting, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
so it, it is definitely something you need to practice, but it's something that if you just start with the fact that you're there to give them the best experience and that you've built your business on having people refer you business because of the experience that they're having, they're more apt to sign that 100%. Versus some people just say, hey, this ties you to me for 6 months, whatever. And that's a little uncomforting. So if you just start with the experience piece, I guarantee they're going to sign every time. What else? Guys, a lot of this moving forward, after signing the agreement, is a lot of role playing, scripts, things of that nature. What can we talk about from what we've talked about today that you guys want to go a little bit more in depth on? Is there any ahas that we've gone over?
For me, I'm not new to real estate, but I'm definitely new to the market, and it has been a few years since I've been in the list and sell segment of real estate. So, any ideas on, and you've given us some great ones today, but any ideas on, how to find those stranger buyers, and how to start building those in your database? Because I don't really have a sphere here. And so I'm depending very heavily on, finding buyers of people that I don't know today. And we've done a buyer's workshop. I did one last Tuesday. I'm doing one again tonight virtually. But any other ideas I would appreciate.
So when you say stranger buyers, tell me a little bit about what are you referencing? Just like cold calls, like
People that how do I reach people that are interested in buying real estate that I don't know today and wouldn't be a part of my sphere, because my sphere is very, very small right now. It's mostly family. It's because this is a new market for me.
okay.
So I thought like the bridal shows is a great idea. Open houses are awesome. And, I've done a couple of shadows on open houses, but the last few weeks, I've just not been able to get any because they're just not having them. So I'm doing the buyers workshops, but again, those are, that obviously people that I don't know, I don't have referrals right now. So anything that would be a way to get in front of buyers that we may have not already talked about.
Yeah, I mean, when I moved to Columbus, obviously I focused on open houses, and that was really what springboarded me into having what I would call a successful year, my first year in Columbus. Second to that, and it's a little bit more challenging during COVID, right? Because it's harder to get in front of people. Hopefully moving forward, things will start to kind of get back to normal a little bit. I would also do anything that would make me uncomfortable as far as going and seeing people, whether it's different groups that, you know, were friends of my wife's or a friend of a friend that I knew, because I just wanted to meet their friends. And quite frankly, that's all I wanted to do, is meet somebody. So I did a lot of that where I just met people that I just didn't know because I just wanted the contact. I mean, one thing that today's society has really helped with is you can stalk the heck out of anybody through the internet, right? You can stalk them through the auditor's site and get an address, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all those. All I wanted was the contact. So, I mean, whether it was, I had a Google Plus account at one point, LinkedIn, I would stalk everybody there. I found everybody that I went to high school with that relocated to Columbus, through Facebook, looked them up on the auditor's site, sent them a card. Hey, I was hoping we could reconnect sometime soon, because I'm from originally Northwest Ohio. And believe it or not, there's a lot of people that I know that grew up in my hometown, whether they were, you know, 4, 5, 6 years ahead of me, or younger than me, that have since relocated to Columbus. Looked them all up, found their address or found them on Facebook or whatever, and just reached out to them that way. These might not be people I necessarily knew, but I had a general sense of who they were, right? So that's another thing you could do. It's very easy to find people these days. Anybody else have ideas? Yes, no, maybe?
Thank you.
Got the thank you. Perfect. Anybody else? Any other questions, comments, concerns? That's kind of, I mean, we're going to end a little bit early. I mean, unless you want me to go into scripts and different things like that, role playing, I'm happy to do that. But is there anything else you guys kind of want to cover?
No, but thank you very much.
Okay, perfect. Absolutely.
I'm sorry, I don't know if I missed it, but is there any advice you can give as far as writing contracts to better help the buyers?
Yeah, I mean, it's getting buyers into contract right now are pretty difficult. So you got to kind of think outside the box, right? Gap appraisals are huge right now. If you can't cover a gap, possession time frame, is that pretty much what everybody else is saying? I mean,
Yeah, the gap appraisals have been crazy though. So
yeah. So some people's gaps just sound differently.
and I guess so my question is more geared to FHA buyers, first time buyers and stuff like that.
Yeah, man. I'll be honest. That's just difficult right now.
Yeah,
I mean, and I think there's nothing special you can do right now. That it's just tough. That's one of the tougher ones to go. I mean, if you're an FHA or VA buyer right now, you just got to have a pretty significant gap or things like that, to where you're typically seeing, you know, a longer possession period or inspections or what have you, because that's just an uphill battle right now.
I think the
Okay,
biggest
thank
piece
you.
of advice that I've gotten from my fearless leader, Director of Operations, Jamie Sprin, is to make sure you call the listing agent and try to find out as much as you can about the seller and what's important to
Yep.
them. Is bottom line price? Is it quick close? You can find out a lot that way also. And I have done that, and it's very helpful.
And Nicole, that's an excellent point. And I should have started there as well. Or after you guys submit an offer or before, you should always talk to the other agent on the other side. Don't be one of those agents that just randomly sends over an offer. You definitely have to sell your buyers on the fact that these are the buyers for that property, right? So Nicole brings up a great point. You always want to reach out to the other agent on the other side. You want to find out some of those things that are important to them, but you're also there to sell your clients on them being the buyers for that property as well. I always looked up, and this is just one thing that I did. If I just gotten a random offer on one of my listings, the last one I got 18 offers. Half of the agents I didn't even talk to. They just sent me an offer. I didn't even talk to them. Obviously, I stalked them. I wanted to know who was sending me an offer, right? So I definitely encourage you to reach out to that agent on the other side, 100%.
Have you had any success with escalation clauses?
So one thing about this market right now, I hate the fact that agents out there just say we won't look at escalation clauses. In my opinion, that is very unethical to do. And that's just my opinion. I don't agree with the fact that they can just agents out there can just say we're not going to look at escalation clauses. Quite frankly, I mean, if you put an escalation clause in a contract and you're sending them over an offer, they have to present it.
Mhm.
That's just the way it is, right? They can't just not present an offer. Me as a listing agent, I'd say whatever. However you write it, send it over, right? If I'm writing an escalation clause as a buyer, one thing that I always say in there, and it depends because everything has changed to where now you're seeing people that are doing gap appraisals of $10,000. But one thing that I was writing in there with an escalation clause was, in the event the appraisal comes back short, buyer will, pay 10,000 over list price or whatever. But I was taking it a step further and saying, in the event that the property appraises at what the agreed upon purchase price is, buyer will cover $5,000 of seller's closing cost. So if the property is listed at $200,000 and it's 210 and we've agreed to 210 and the gap appraisal is $10,000 if it under appraises, well, you're still in at 210, right? So I would take the escalation a step further and say, if the property does appraise at $210,000, buyer will cover X amount of dollars of seller's closing costs, right? Because it puts your buyer in a position where they might have more out-of-pocket expenses, but if it did appraise at the $210,000, right, they didn't have to do that 10,000 gap that they would have had to pay out of pocket, and now they just put $5,000 towards the seller's closing cost. I mean, that's one thing that you can do to kind of, hey, if it does appraise, we'll pay part of the closing cost or what have you. So it's more unlikely that those scenarios happen right now, just because of the way the inventory is so soft, or there just really isn't any inventory out there. But moving forward, when it gets into kind of the spring months, I think that kind of might come into play a little bit more, where there's more inventory available. So that's one thing you could do.
So right now you would say that paying the gap in the appraisal is the biggest benefit that a buyer can put in the contract.
Right now, that's what I'm seeing. But again, it just sparks to going back to the agent and seeing what's most important to them and how many offers they might have. so on and so forth. But that gap is, I mean, it's pretty significant right now in this market. Anybody else?
What about as is? How are you seeing that play out with on top of the appraisal gap?
To me, it depends how many offers you have. As a listing agent, in my opinion, if I have, sorry, one of my twins is outside the door, so I apologize if you can hear her crying. It really depends how many offers, either if you're the listing agent or the buying agent, if how many you're competing against or how many as the listing agent you have. I have one in Delaware that we had 18 offers. We took a contract that wasn't as is because the gap was more important to them. Flip side of that is it just depends. It really depends, because that, as long as you're doing inspections, you still have an out on termination, right?
Right.
So if I'm the listing agent and I have 18 offers and I accept one that isn't as is, well, I can have 4 backup offers that are exactly the same as what we're in contract for, to where if something is wrong, we'll just terminate it on the list side and go with the next offer, right? Because in this market, all the buyers just want a house. So it really just, it depends how many people you're up against. It's a little bit of a gamble too, because if there is something wrong on that house and you terminate because of it, you have to disclose that to the backup, right? So it just depends. The last
Okay, that's
two,
fair.
the last 2 in this market, we've actually accepted offers that have remedy request in there that aren't as is.
Interesting.
Just
Okay,
because
thank
we
you
know
very
that
much.
we know there's enough buyers out there that if
True.
these people are going to offer us more money, or it's a significant difference, if it's $1,000 or $1,500, in the off chance, what's the chances that you're going to be 1,000 or 1,500 out of pocket? Radon, maybe, right? If you don't have a radon system, but it depends.
Okay. Thank you.
So, yep. Anybody else? All right, guys. Well, I hope I didn't just sit here and talk your ear off. I hope you kind of picked up something. Sorry we didn't go into the role playing. I hope everybody is okay with that. Is there any other questions before we jump off of here?
I don't have any. Thank you so much.
Yep, absolutely.
Thanks,
I don't have
Ben.
any, but this has been helpful. Thank you.
Absolutely. Guys, I'm out of the Keller Williams Excel office in Westerville. If at any point you have any questions, comments, concerns, email, text me, call me, send a pigeon with a note attached to it. I don't care. I'm always happy to help, for sure. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
All right. See you guys.
See you.